keys to maintaining, if we are able to create this beautiful magic called great company culture, what are the keys to maintaining that with this remote company environment that we're in? How can we build it? How can we maintain it? How can we nurture it? How can we risk it not fading away when we're looking at a computer? But none of us are ever really looking at the camera. We're only looking at different people. So you're never, you know.
So I had a conversation this week. I've had this conversation a couple times this week, actually. And I'm hearing a lot of, oh man, I'm zoomed out. And I'm like, there's your cue to zoom in.
Oh yeah.
Zoom into what's driving that feeling for you. But I mean, I look at this, and on one hand, I'm watching everybody else. But if there's ever a time to sort of, as an individual, how am I showing up in these conversations? I hate to say it, but you got a live camera like none of us have ever had before. And what's your energy?
Right.
And when we see people who don't have energy, I think we have to go in and say, how are you? What do you need? There is the greatest opportunity for us to build culture right now if we zoom in and actually allow ourselves to get curious around what are those things on the wall behind us all in these video calls? And what is it we're doing that are allowing people to bring something in? How are we making sure that we have moments where we don't talk about work? How are you? I was working with a group where we had to answer 3 questions. Tell us a bright story, tell us a dark story, and tell us what's giving you hope right now. Man, oh man. Some people shared stuff about themselves and around what's happening around them. Other people just they were picking up from the news that was either giving them, making them laugh, making them cry. But I'll tell you, when you start to build practices in this environment that allows us to take the mask off and be human, because man, if there's ever a time, and my new favorite term from Brene Brown is FFT, F in first time. We are all FFTing our way through this pandemic. And so the gift of grace and patience and curiosity is the greatest thing that we could do around culture and connection and communication. Because one thing I'm also hearing is some organizations, everybody's got to show up, but the leaders don't have to turn their video on and everybody else does. Or, I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah, one thing we did for sure is because we were all getting used to this at the beginning, right? And people were like in dark caves, and so we just said, guys, we need to make a concerted effort here to, lighten yourselves up or do whatever it needs to do, like, because that's all we got, right? So,
I mean, you can play with this stuff.
Yeah.
Like if there was ever a time we need a sense of play, it's now. And just like, I've got this thing with 4 letter words, and then I'll shut up, I promise. But play for me right now stands for putting, and the L stands for laughter, learning, and love around yourself. And if you don't have playlists right now for what you're doing at work and what you're doing outside of work, then what you're be doing is you're being driven by the dark side of fear and worry and stress. So there has to be play. And if there was ever a time for us to use this technology in a different way and really ask ourselves, how can we get to know each other and how can we help each other navigate this FFT like never before? Now for me is the make or break moment for leaders to truly, if they want, build trust, build a network, and build a feedback-rich environment like they've never had before. I'm sorry I've talked so much.
That's great, Chiyoko. What do you think? That's awesome, Judy.
Sorry, I was just listening to Judy too. Judy, I have a whole bunch of 80s playlists. Does that count?
or does this constitute playing? We've been with different types of backgrounds, and I don't know if we have any Tiger King fans in the.
So I think we were talking about how to keep the culture going even though you're working remotely. And for those of you that might have small business or have you done contract work, I actually have never worked from home in my whole career. So this is a little bit shocking for me, and it's a little bit pushing myself outside the comfort zone. So at the end of the day, I'm just trying to be true to who I am. And one of the lucky things I think we have going for us at Century 21 is that because we have 10,000 agents across the country, because we do webinars, we do meetings with owners, we have different head office staff that are located different places throughout the country. We were very used to Zoom. We were very used to being on camera. We're very used to trying to, you know, convey the emotion. So that was a lucky part, but I do think that, you know, working remotely and trying to maintain that culture, I think there's a couple things. Number one is leveraging technology. So using Zoom and trying to be on camera as much as possible so people can see, you know, your body language and your tone of voice and everything clearly. But I also have, you know, I have my teams on WhatsApp. So we created a WhatsApp group. Of course, we're available through Skype, we're available through email. So just making sure that everybody knows we're in this together and we're supporting each other and we have open communication and anyone can feel as comfortable as possible talking to any one of us. So I think that's critical, making sure that you open up the channels of communication even more than ever before. And then again, I think just taking that time, you know, I think Judy said, like, it's small talk, right? It's not, I don't jump on a Zoom meeting with, you know, a department or with my department and start to get right into it, even though that's what I feel like, because I'm doing 11 Zoom meetings a day, you know, but I take the time to ask them how they're doing. I might say something that's funny. I might play some Pointer Sisters to start it off. Anything that keeps the personality going, because it does tend to get a little bit impersonal, especially when people are muting themselves and, you know, they're trying to be respectful for other people talking, but just making sure that you continue to kind of have fun. And then the last way, I think it's just having, you know, setting those times aside to do something that's not work. So at the office, we've been having Friday, we call it Fridays at 4. So at 4 every Friday, we've been having Zoom meetings, but everyone grabs a drink. We put 3 Zoom meeting rooms, and last week I hosted the charades room. So we did it based on movies, and we're just having, you know, just a fun conversation. We're just like laughing at each other and just trying to, you know, decrease our level of anxiety through kind of laughter, right? So I think it's just putting time aside to do that as well.
I love that. In the spirit of play, I came up with a little saying that is helping me. And literally, it's like I have to say this to myself. But it's send the note, stay afloat. And I sort of have this prediction that at the end of COVID, when everyone's allowed to leave their homes again and give each other hugs, the businesses that are still afloat, that are still in business, that are still thriving, you know, it didn't hit them as hard, is they were the ones that they sent the note when it was uncomfortable. They when the thought came to their head to say, like, I have a question, and they know that if they had a colleague sitting beside them like normal, they would have gone to ask it. They actually still asked it. And what I keep hearing across the board in articles and things I'm trying to read is that people are like, there are so many things that I feel like I've never had to make so many decisions on my own. I feel like because we're literally isolating ourselves even when we're still working remotely. And so I think even though you're isolated at home, you don't have to be isolated from your team. And I love what you're saying, both of you, that like it's really about like staying in communication. And honestly, our team is really struggling with this right now. It's something we're pushing for, but it's, even though we work remotely, half our team lives in Europe. Like, we're used to working remotely. It's hard. It's not easy, and it takes a continued effort. I think honestly, the thing that I would recommend, and I'm trying to do this, is every week you start fresh and you say, again, how did we do? Like Judy's saying, like, if you're an athlete, I mean, I think all of us here on this call, I used to be a professional dancer. Caleb played football. Shioko, you're already saying you're going to go work out. Like, we all think a lot, probably like athletes in some way, but you have to measure this. And I think you can't let a week go on where there's bad communication or lack of communication and then do that again next week. You have to take stock, and then you have to say, Kate, last week wasn't good. We need to improve, and this week's going to be better. And I think, you know, it's going to be a few different kind of maybe KPIs that you have to add in that are like, maybe we need to look at how many Slack conversation messages were sent this week, because again, that should be higher than when before, when we did have all those conversations beside the water cooler, et cetera. Let's make sure those numbers are actually kind of high, because if they're not, there's probably some stuff getting missed. There's probably some things that aren't getting executed on. We're probably not moving as fast as we could. And until you're really taking stock of that, you're probably going to you're not going to see them coming until it's too late. And that's what I'm afraid of for a lot of businesses, if this isn't something they think about. Judy.
You know what, you just twitched on, you put a point there that I think is really important to capture. When you think about stress and the amount of cortisol that runs through our bodies and our brains when things are crazy and new and change is happening all the time, eventually our bodies can't handle that level, and then the cortisol comes off. So it's almost like having a hangover in some respects. So what you said earlier for me is really important, is when you have a bad week, or how do you make it okay for people to talk about, I'm having a bad week, here's what I need.
Right.
And if we, because there's this idea in neuroscience and emotional intelligence that if you can name it, you can tame it when you talk about our emotions. But if we stuff it, it gets bigger. And I think the biggest concern and the biggest place and space in my practice right now is it's 4 weeks, 5 weeks in, and I'm reaching back out to all my clients going, okay, I just want to make sure you know, I'm the vault. I'm the weeping, yelling well. What do you need to unpack so you can go back out there and do what you need to do? And I think the amount of emotion that's really in our organizations and individually is much greater than I think we're honoring. And if we don't talk about it, we do risk missing an opportunity to take our culture to a whole better level when we make it okay to have a shitty day.
Yeah. Well, that's much better solution than what I've done. I have a scream room downstairs where you can't hear anything. No
way.
Can I just add one thing? Because I know that, for the people that are watching this this webinar, I know it's kind of taking away tactical things that they might be able to implement. And, one of the things that I have found, because it's not just about, and I'm glad I was thinking about this, and the rest of the panelists have helped me think about this, but, it's not just about nurturing the culture at the office or the marketing department. It's about nurturing the culture of the entire organization. And again, there's 10,000 people across Canada that we have to nurture a culture with. And so I use a platform called BombBomb. It sends out, of course, video email messages, personalized video email messages. And someone will write me something, like they'll send me an email, a question, and I will respond back to them via video. So I'll be like, I'll be like, hi, Caleb, I know you asked me a question of this. I just want to touch base and see how you're doing. And of course, answer your question. So now, they get the visual of me. I can actually, instead of typing it along, because we're always so, conscious of our grammar and everything, but now you can express your caring. And to me, that helps to nurture culture. And the other thing it does, because I go to a ton of offices across Canada, is it starts to build that relationship with someone that I don't have a relationship with. So when I actually see them in person, they think I'm their best friend. Like, I walked into offices and I've been hugged immediately because they're like, I've seen you on video. It's like, yes. So I do think that's a way, if you don't have the opportunity to, get on a Zoom call or pick up the phone, just sending those video email messages are great. I know that BombBomb has a 14-day trial that you can actually just try it if you want. So just go to bombbomb.com and you can try a 14-day trial.